Welcome to Rinkside Rundown, the podcast that puts you right in the heart of women's hockey. I'm your host, Chris Sinclair, and each week I'm on a mission to showcase the incredible women who are lighting up the ice across the globe. Get ready as I chat with rising stars, seasoned pros, and all the game changers making waves in the world of women's hockey that you won't find anywhere else. So, let's dive into the exciting world of women's hockey and make sure to click that subscribe button so you never miss an exciting episode. Hello and welcome back to Rinkside Rundown. I'm your host, Chris Sinclair, and today I am thrilled to be joined by Anna Kjellbin, a defender and draft pick of the Montreal Victoire. Anna, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Thank you very much. I'm doing well, thank you. It's I shouldn't say Friday evening, maybe I should, but yeah, it's been a good week here, and happy and excited to end it with a interview together with you.
Oh, perfect. I appreciate that. Yeah, great way to kick off the weekend, they say, right?
For sure, for sure.
Good. I'm glad. Yes. And so obviously, like I said, I'm really thrilled for you to be on the show. This has been a long time coming, and I'd really love to let's dive right in to your story, and how things started for you. Do you want to talk a little bit about what it was about hockey that initially, like, that you were drawn to, that you were thrilled about, that you were excited about? What was your origin story when it comes to hockey?
Yeah, well, it started, I think I stood on ice first time when I was 3 or 4 years old. It was my dad, he was playing hockey, and he wanted me and my brother to obviously see the love of the sport as well. So started 90, what could it be, 97, 98 somewhere. And I mean, it's hard to tell what I was thinking when I was 4, but I think I fell in love pretty quickly with the sport, and being around all the friends, and yeah, just playing ice hockey.
So what was it, was it just, another opportunity for you to be around friends, or what was it specifically that, when you looked at hockey, when you saw hockey being played, even if it was just something as simple as people skating on the ice, what was it about that really drew you to the sport? What was it like that you were like, yes, I want to do that. That's something I could see myself doing, or even just casually. What was it about it specifically? Do you recall what it was that drew you to it?
I think I think it was obviously meet your friends, but also like have fun, but at the same time do your sport together with friends, and learn things as skating, as shooting, and all those things around hockey. I think that I saw myself developing and learning things pretty quickly, and I think that was the main thing that drove me to hockey. But also, like, I was trying so many other sports as well, and I had great parents who let me do so. So I think I was up on 5 different sports when I was young. Ended up with golf and hockey in the end. But yeah, I think all those things around hockey, and nowadays achieving goals together with my friends, that's one of the main things.
Okay, so then I have to ask, what was it about hockey then that like overrode all of those other sports? And then on top of that, what skills do you think you took from those other sports to help you to become the great defender that you are?
Well, first of all, swimming. I think that was, getting up early in the mornings. That was what I learned from swimming. When it comes to golf, I love the sport as well, but I realized that I'm more a person who likes to achieve goals, and play the sport together with others. Golf, it's an individual sport, so I figured that wasn't for me. And I think like floorball, same thing, like doing something together with others, but say still not the same type of sport as hockey. I like that it's physical in a way that like floorball, for example, isn't, and same with soccer. And yeah, I think I realized pretty quickly that hockey was my sport.
Okay. And when we speak about hockey, you are a fantastic defender, but what was it about defense and that position that drew you to it? And how do you think that you've been able to grow, especially being a player who's played a lot of different sports? How do you think those sports have impacted your position as a defender? What was it about defense? Let's start there. What was it about defense?
Yeah, I mean, I started off as forward actually. I was a right wing for many years until I was like 13 or 14, I think. Then they changed and let me play defense, and I realized that seeing everything from almost as a goalie, like from the defense zone, and starting the plays, and still being offensive with like still shooting and stuff like that in the offensive zone. I saw that the defense position has it all in a way that I liked, and then ended up being like a little bit more defensive defender, I think. And it's hard to tell exactly what it was, but it's something with being the defense that I really like.
Okay. So, again, notorious for asking a ton of follow-up questions, but I have to ask this one. Do you, is there any part of you that misses being a forward, or are you're absolutely thrilled and totally fine with being a defender?
If I would be a 100% offensive defender, I would probably say that I would miss being a forward, not having to be as much in the defense zone. But since I'm like a two-way I don't think so actually. I like being a defense, and doesn't really matter if it's right or left side, but defense is definitely my position.
All right, that's fair. I like it. And you earlier on, you had mentioned you kind of touched a little bit upon family and the impact that family had on you early on. Could you kind of expand on that a little bit more and maybe talk about how important family has been, early on, but especially now, and throughout your time professionally? What has been the impact of family on you?
I'm very tight with my family. I have a little or younger brother, and then mom and dad, and we're all four very tight. I think we call each other at least once a day and text each other several times a day. So we're super tight, and I mean, maybe I didn't appreciate it as much when I was young, but now looking back, like all the time they've been putting down on driving me to practices and watching all my games, and just supporting me, and maybe a little bit extra, like a lot of us in my generation at least, we've been playing hockey as the only girl in a boys team, and same for me. And I even had my dad supporting me through being my coach for a couple of years as well. So I mean, um, words cannot describe how much I appreciate them. That's for sure.
Okay, so what was that dynamic like, having your father as your coach? What was that like? And maybe what was that like at the rink, but also what was that like at home, after a game or something like that? What was that dynamic like for you?
Yeah, he was strict, and he was a loud coach. He was screaming. And I realized pretty quickly that for him to put me on the ice, it takes me to, be almost double as good as the other Ds or forwards. When it was the forwards, me being a forward. Um, but yeah, I realized pretty fast that I had to put down a lot of work and work hard to prove that I should be on the ice. So that was maybe not one of the backsides, but definitely a challenge. But when it comes home, I have a mom that she's always supporting me through my hockey and my brother's hockey, but she's not a sports person. So she's been very good in like changing the subject around the dinner table and stuff like that. So I think it's been a good balance actually when I look back at it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like it's a really good balance where it's like, you know what? Leave the hockey at the rink. We're now at the dinner table. We're gonna focus on family now at this point. That's kind of what the impression that I got from that conversation.
Yeah,
So
no,
I,
that's spot on.
yeah, I feel like your mom did a lot of the heavy lifting there. So appreciate her for sure. Um, so, and just to kind of, the family question is one that I think is maybe not spoken about enough. Just because, and you alluded to it, there's so much work that has to go into it, right? Like, whether it's going to and from the rink on practice just for practices and then for games, and then, your dad's also doing, he's also coaching. And when you think back on that, and even now, knowing that your family has been there and is put in, also, I should highlight the financial side of it is definitely something that it isn't inexpensive to play the game of hockey as well, right? When you think back on where you're at right now, and we're going to get into the draft in a little bit, but now you're drafted into the PWHL. Obviously, you've had a great career in the SDHL. You've represented your country. When you think back, like, what does it mean to you when you think back to the the sacrifices that your parents and that your family put into you, and what it means to you? Hopefully, I can only assume that they've also been able to attend a lot of those games and to be there with you. What it means for you to also play those games and know they're there, know they're cheering the loudest for you, and that that you're they're your biggest supporters. What does that mean to you?
I mean, it means everything. I think um, having a supportive family means everything, and it helped me to be where I am today. Obviously, they've been giving me everything I need to take all the steps in my hockey career. And as you said, they're watching a lot of my games, and it feels like every time I know that they're in the stands, I need to play a little bit extra and a little bit better just to kind of, give back somehow. Yeah, no, it means a lot.
I love that it's still about giving back a little bit. So yeah, appreciating the journey to where you got. What wouldn't have happened, or where you are wouldn't have happened without them. I love that. And reflecting on your career up until this point, what do you think were some of the challenges that you've had to face? And that can be, on the ice, that can be off the ice, however you want to take this question. What are some of the challenges that you feel like you've had to face throughout your career?
Yeah, that is a good question. I mean, first of all, I had to move from home to sort of continue my career in hockey when I was 16. So I had to move 3 hours from home, moving into an apartment by myself. Of course, that was a challenge. Even though I didn't think so when I was 16, it was pretty cool to have my own apartment and make my own dinner every night. But I mean, that was a challenge. But then obviously, like injuries you've had over the years when you're in a rehab session, then you think that you're you're far away from playing and stuff like that. But something, when looking back at it, I think uh, it's a strength also to get out from those situations, to have patience and to put down hard work, because it actually pays off in the end, and hopefully you even get back stronger. So I mean, for sure, I've had challenges over the years, and maybe when I am in the middle of them, I haven't seen them as challenges, but looking back at them, it's been, for sure, it's been uphill. But I mean, that's life on the other hand.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I think that brings up a really good question regarding like, going through those challenges, whether it's rehab, whether it's just like something maybe as simple as not a great game, or what have you. How do you think those challenges has helped to um maybe help you to create to become the player that you are, I think more importantly the individual that you are?
I think the biggest thing is that I've realized that it takes hard work to come somewhere, and you dream of something, you have dreams. If it's uh, play on the senior team, or if it's play on the national team or college or whatever it can be, you realize pretty quickly that it takes time and it takes effort to come somewhere. uh, so yeah, I would say that that's the biggest thing that I've learned. That it takes time, it takes hard work, and you need patience. It doesn't happen overnight.
I think that's great advice, regardless of whatever career you're in, whatever you're doing in life. I think that's great advice. So I appreciate that. And when you maybe when you were younger, even now as well, because I think that this question kind of applies even to now. Who were some of the role models that you had, or those influences that you had? And maybe they were hockey players, maybe they were your parents, maybe they were friends, whomever they may have been. Who were some of those role models for you, or influences for you growing up in the sport?
Yeah, so growing up, like since I was the only girl in the hockey club I was in, it wasn't any natural like woman hockey player that I looked up to, but obviously like my dad has been a role model. He was playing hockey as well, so I mean I know that that's the typical answer for from many other athletes and players as well, but I would lie if I didn't say my dad.
Okay, and I'm gonna then flip that on you and ask what it means to know, especially with the PWHL, especially with finally women's hockey is getting the attention that it's so long deserved. What does it mean to you to also be a role model and an influence on the next, maybe it's it might be a few years from now, but there are a lot of players, both men or both boys and girls, who are looking at players like yourself and saying, I want to be like Anna Kjellbin. What does that mean to you to have that, to be a role model and an influence also on what will be continued success in women's hockey?
It means a lot, obviously. It uh, feels like it's hard to believe, also, but no, obviously means a lot, and um, I always want to give back somehow. Sometimes you find a way to do so, but no, again, um, yeah, it's amazing.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it must feel, it's almost like another one of those pinch me moments where it's like, is this, first of all, is it real that we're at where we're at? But also that like there are there's youth hockey that is looking towards you when you're like, I'm just another person. But they're looking at you and they're like, I want to be just like Anna Shelbin. It just must be a pinch me moment.
Yeah, for sure, it is. It
Yeah,
is.
good. Okay. Now, as I've mentioned, you've had the opportunity to represent your country. For the audio listeners, Anna has some amazing jerseys, framed jerseys in her in the background. Obviously, this is, and it should be, a huge source of pride for you. When you put on that jersey, let's say when you put on that jersey for the very first time, what did that feel like for you?
I think just as looking back, like when I was 4 years old, but I think it's the same thing now. Like it's hard, even though I was teenager. I think it's hard to look back and know what I was thinking. I think it's always easier to you get wiser the older you get. So I hopefully it was an honor, and hopefully representing your country, that's the biggest thing you can do as an athlete. So that is something that I nowadays don't take for granted, and every time I get the chance to actually do so, I try to, kind of take three deep breaths and like realize that I'm one of these 20 other players that gets these opportunities, but there's so many other girls that would do anything to be in my position. So try to be humble every time I get to do so, but at the same time also I have in my backpack and know how much work I've put down to actually get this opportunity.
Yeah, and I think that also begs the question. And first of all, I wish that I could in any way relate to what it must feel like to put on the colors of your country, because it must just be, we talk about pinch me moments and those moments that you'll never forget in your life. That's definitely at the top of the list right there for sure. But I also want to know, speaking of, we kind of spoke about it a little bit just a moment ago, but, when we think about when we talked about role models and influences, knowing that, you have the opportunity to represent your country on the biggest of stages, um, what do you think those opportunities and those teams have done to help to maybe bring into the forefront women's hockey and ultimately to help grow women's hockey specifically? I mean, we can talk more globally, but let's talk more specifically with Sweden. How, like, shed some light in terms of how being able to represent your country, and I'm saying you, but it's the collective you, all of you, has helped to grow the sport and be able to actually be able to see women's hockey, like these female players from Sweden are now representing our country on the biggest stage. What do you think that does for the growth of women's hockey specifically in Sweden?
Hopefully a lot. Hopefully people turns on the TV and watches us and see that it's good hockey nowadays, and it goes fast and it's physical and all those things. And hopefully there's a couple of young girls sitting in the couch, never been standing in a pair of skates, that gets an eye opener as well, and ends up starting to play hockey as well. And yeah, that is something that I hope will happen at least. And um, yeah, I can just remember when I was a young girl and I watched the national team play, and that was one of my big dreams back then.
Nice. Yeah. And I'm sure that it's every chance you get to lace up those skates, put on that country's jersey, you're making a big difference when it comes to women's hockey in general, for sure, but women's hockey in Sweden. And I think that's, it's a great place, and it's a great hockey country. So I know that you wear it with pride, and it's obvious by the giant smile on your face as you're talking about what it's meant for you to be able to represent your country. So, speaking of representing your country, you've also had the opportunity to be a leader, whether it's an assistant captain, whether it's captain. You've been someone that's been relied upon to, and I know that for a lot of people, they're just going to say, it's a letter on the jersey. That's it's more than just a letter on the jersey. And I want to know, for you, what does I mean, let's start off with what has it meant to you to be able to not just put that jersey on, but to put that jersey on knowing that there's also a letter on there? What does that mean for you?
No, obviously it means a lot. And maybe that was not a thing that I was dreaming on as or dreaming about when I was a little girl playing hockey, but um today it means a lot, and that I get the opportunity um, to somehow have responsible somehow a little bit extra of the group, and how to get the group together in tournaments and stuff like that. And I am very into leadership and people in general. So for me, it's one extra thing to focus on, but I think it's a lot of fun, and I think it's very interesting when it comes to a group and to building a group and then to achieving goals together, and how that path should look like. So I mean, it means a lot.
And let's expand on that a little bit. When we talk specifically about being a leader, what does leadership look like, or maybe sound like, or feel like to Anna Kjellbin? What does it mean to you?
For me, a good leadership is from a person that you know that always has your back, and is a person that you can always come and talk to. Um, Also, someone that um, wants the best for the group. And I mean, everyone has different leadership, but I want to have a type of leadership that feels safe and feels like, I'm kind of an open book, and you can just jump right into it, even if it's a question or if it's a statement or if it's just, talking about how you feel or whatever it can be. So for me, leadership, I could talk about leadership for an hour, I think, but I think it's very important in a team, and if you have a good leadership and a good path that you've been working with your team together, I think that gives you an easier way up to the top.
Well, I would be happy to hear that hour-long TED Talk from Anna Kjellbin about leadership. So I will sign up for that talk. When you think about, reflecting on your time with the national team, what were some of your favorite memories? And I think that it might be easy to pick the ones on ice. But I also want to hear maybe some of those experiences that us as fans don't get to see because we only get to see what's on TV, right? What were some of your favorite experiences, both on and off the ice, throughout your time with the national team?
I think with the national team, I think it's a journey that we're on right now. We've been working a couple of years now with the new coaches and staff that we have in the national team, and we've been working on building a group that's comfortable with each other, that where everyone accept their own roles. And where you have that feeling that we have high roof and thick walls, so you can say whatever you feel, and that's okay. But and when we're out playing games, you know that everyone has your back, and we would take a bullet for each other. um I think that is something that we're working on today and tomorrow and yesterday. And I think looking back a couple of years, I think we've been taking several steps in the right direction. And it's hard to say that it's something that we achieved today. but it's definitely something that we're working on today, and something that I would put on that list.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound like I'm only saying this because I'm chatting with you, but I want to say that I've long, and it's true for a lot of people watching the Swedish national team, regardless of what, whether it's, a championship, whether it's the Olympics, watching that team play is absolutely a joy. So whatever you're doing it well. So let's just make sure we keep that up, because it's working really well for the team and for the country. So I love that. And as we continue progressing throughout your career, we have to talk about the PWHL. So before we get into specifically, the Montreal Victoire, or the recently named Montreal Victoire, for which you have been drafted into, congratulations. I want to know, I know that we're only entering into the second season of the PWHL, but just from the outside, what do you think has been the impact of the PWHL in terms of the growth of women's hockey? And I think the reason that I ask this question is you're in a really unique position, because I'm in North America, you're in Sweden. And so it's easy for me to say, because all of the teams are over here, it's easy for me to say, yeah, okay, it's growing, it's, more visibility and stuff like that. But I think you're in a really unique position to be able to maybe talk about, what's the PWHL, what's been the reception overseas, and overall, how do you think that's translated to the growth of women's hockey?
I mean, in general, very positive. I think for me personally, I've been playing for SDHL here for 15 years now, and I've been kind of accepting that I'm making the way for the next generation to have a good league, and hopefully a professional league for everyone. I could only dream of, having something called like, or being like NHL for the women's. I would never believe that that would happen while I'm playing. So for me personally, obviously super excited, and I'm so happy that the PWHL does exist and started last season. For all the other girls, and for the young girls that maybe dreams of SDHL, maybe for to play for the national team and going on college. Now they have something else. They have PWHL to also, there is a next step of dreaming, and I think that is great for the women's hockey international, but obviously as a Swedish player, for all the Swedish ice hockey players too. So I'm very positive in what I can tell from people around me. I've just heard good things about it.
And we will be right back. This episode is sponsored by sports nutritionist Melissa Buffunos of MB Performance Nutrition. As a former competitive hockey player turned nutritionist, Melissa's mission is to help the next generation of hockey players optimize their diets and health so they can perform their best both on and off the ice. Ready to dominate on the ice? Melissa's new course, The Hockey Nutrition Blueprint, is available now. If you're serious about learning how nutrition can impact performance and building actionable nutrition strategies based on your unique needs as an elite hockey player, learn more and sign up at melissabuffunos.com/course. That's melissabuffunos.com/course, and make sure to use code Rinkside to save $50 off the regular price. Thank you to Melissa Buffunos for sponsoring this episode. And now, back to the show. One of the many great points you made was just around, a lot of players, when they start playing, they're like, okay, I'm going to go collegiate, and then I'm either going to go overseas to, for example, a fantastic league in the SDHL, or they're in a position where they're going to then not play hockey anymore, and they're just going to rely on whatever it is that their degree was, and then play for the national team. So I think that's one of the great things about the PWHL, is that it gives you another avenue, another goal, another level that you can achieve to, or you can work to achieve rather. So that's why one of the reasons why I love asking this question is just having that league is just another really exciting avenue for all of these great players, and to be on the stage that the PWHL has, because it being broadcast on YouTube, it being broadcast on nationally, here in Canada or in the US as well, I think it's just going to do wonders for the growth of women's hockey and all the hard work people like yourself have put into growing women's hockey and the exposure of all of these great players. So I do have to say thank you for all that hard work. It isn't easy. But it's a burden that I'm sure you're happy to take on.
For sure. It's
Yeah.
worth it.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So let's get more specific. So I've said a couple of times now, you were drafted by Montreal Victoire. When you heard your name called, especially I think, for someone who's spent their time in the SDHL, growing women's hockey, helping to grow women's hockey in Sweden, what did that moment feel like for you? Do you even remember, hearing your name being called, knowing that this is really real? Or, walk us through what that felt like for you, maybe more specifically in that moment, but also as you reflect on the journey that you've gone through to get now to hear your name called in the new professional women's hockey league.
I mean, it is a dream come true for sure. I was on the couch. It was early morning Swedish time, so was a little bit tired, I think. And then hearing my name, I couldn't believe that it was true, to be honest. But it was, and it's hard to describe how it felt, because it really felt like it was a dream coming true, and something that I really wanted. So yeah.
And here you are now. Like, your name was called. You're the next. When we talk about that next step of your career, you're now like you're a draft pick in the PWHL. Has that sunk in yet?
I don't know. I don't think so. Sometimes it feels like, yeah, it has, but sometimes it's still like unbelievable somehow.
Yeah. Before we get into the last segment of the show, I do want to know what you're most looking forward to, as you make that next step into the PWHL, into playing in North America. What are some of those things that you're most looking forward to as you start the next chapter of your hockey career? Your incredible hockey career. Let's double underline, bold, incredible, all that stuff. Your incredible hockey career. What are you most looking forward to?
I mean, I would say everything, everything from practices on and off the ice to getting to know everyone, to hopefully play games and experience the fans and the crowd. So yeah, everything. It's hard to only pick one.
That's fair. And again, I am guilty of the tremendous number of follow-up questions I have, but I think we've touched on it a couple of times, and I would be remiss if I didn't talk about, you had mentioned you spent a number of years in the SDHL, right? When you think about your time in the SDHL, what do you think, or how do you think that time has impacted you both as a player and as an individual? And what do you think that time in the SDHL, how that's going to impact your, you as both the player and as a person in the PWHL?
Oh, very good question. I think, well, first of all, I've been playing in SDHL from the start, meaning that I know how it is playing in a league that's kind of new, I guess, without knowing exactly how it is in PWHL. Hopefully, the experience of playing in a women's hockey league for so many years could be something.
No, but I think I think you touched on a really, really good point though there, in that, being someone who's been involved in a brand new league, you're now entering into another brand new league, right? So you bring a ton of, what that grind feels like. You know what it's like to, yeah, I mean, you just know that, the grind, how hard it is to get things going. And I think obviously with the PWHL, there's been a really positive reception to it. There's been, regardless of where you're playing, whichever team it is, you are widely appreciated, and there's a lot of enthusiasm at every home game. Whether you're the home team or you're not, there's always a lot of great reception there. So I think that's actually a really, you may not, like, I think that's a really, really good answer there. You bring with you a lot of experience, and I think too you're in a unique position because you also bring a lot of experience internationally too. So bringing that into, the Montreal Victoire, bringing that experience into the PWHL. That's how we create like such a diverse, such a, it's just like such an incredible league, is those diverse, or are those diverse experiences that you've had. So I think that's a great answer. So don't worry. Great answer.
It was.
Yeah, it was absolutely was. Okay. So, we're going to go into the last segment of the show. And it's always my goal to limit the number of follow-up questions that I have, because as we've experienced, I like the follow-up questions. So I'm going to try to do my best not to ask any follow-up questions, just so we can get through this before tomorrow, because I'll just keep going with you. But this next segment here, it's a working title, but it's 20 questions, but not 20 questions. And I say that because it's just kind of like a bunch of fun questions. Some are more profound than others. It's just a fun kind of conversation that we can have. It's the crack team here at Rinkside Rundown. And I always say the crack team being my dog and I came up with these questions, worked really hard to come up with these questions, and they're scientifically proven to really get to know Anna Kjellbin. Are you ready to take this test?
I'm ready.
All right, good. Yeah, it's always great to be on this side of the test, because if I was on that side of the test, I'm not confident that I would be ready for it. But here we go. So first question, one of the more profound questions I'll ask is, what are you most proud of from this past season?
Winning the championship, obviously, here in SDHL. It's something that you play for the whole season, and going into the playoffs is definitely the best time of the year. You go into the playoffs bubble, and you kind of never want to go out.
Okay, that's fair. I like it. See, no follow-up questions so far, so I've met expectations. Yeah, exactly. How would you, for people who haven't had a chance to see you play, whether it's in the SDHL or with your national team, how would you describe your style of play as a defender?
Two-way D, maybe been a little bit more defensive last couple of years, but I do like to use my shot in the offensive zone. Trying to play consistent all the time, just to be a player that you always know what you're gonna get from.
What does a quote unquote off season look like for you specifically, Anna Kjellbin? And how do you think it's changed throughout your career?
Oh, I mean, usually after seasons, I've usually been home in Gothenburg, where I'm from, so spending a couple of months at home, where I have my trainer that I've been working with for the last couple of years now. Usually the summer training is like 3 months long, so I have like 3 phases of summer training, where it's like 3 weeks hard, 1 week reload, and then you go through 3 phases. And I think that's been like how it's been for almost the whole career, if I can't remember or if I don't remember wrong. But mainly like working out in the mornings, maybe entering the beach for a couple of hours if the sun is up, and then another workout in the evenings, and then the days goes on. So usually that for 5 or 6 days a week. So yeah, I would say that the difference between the actually hockey season and the off season is not that much different, except that I'm not on ice as much during the off season.
Yeah, I figured that there wasn't really much of an off season for you. There never really seems to be. It just changes, but there's never really, you might have a week off or something like that. But okay, next up, what is your go-to pregame meal?
That is something that has changed actually. For a couple of years, I would say like pasta and something. And nowadays, I like rice and chicken. So I've basically changed pasta to rice if I can choose. Otherwise, I'm pretty flexible when it comes to that actually. Not pizza and burgers and stuff, obviously, but like
Yeah.
normal food. Yeah.
Yeah, those are when you treat yourself. And certainly not before a game. I know I promised I wouldn't do many follow-up questions, so this is a little bit of a knock against me here, but I do want to know when it was pasta, was there like was it just plain pasta, and with rice, is it just plain rice?
Yeah, well, it's like, yeah, it's pasta and like bolognese or something, and then ketchup, and then it's like rice and just plain chicken.
Okay, interesting. Really
Mhm.
changed it up there. No more ketchup, that's for sure.
No.
Okay, so if you weren't involved in hockey, and by that I mean if you weren't a hockey player, what do you think you'd be doing as a career?
Yeah, it's hard to see that I wouldn't be involved in hockey, like being a coach or something.
Hmm.
But if not that, maybe having my own business somehow.
What it sounds like at the end of the day, it's still gonna, regardless of whether you're playing or you're not playing, it's your life is in hockey, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I could tell. I want to know, what is something that remains on your bucket list? What's something that you really want to do? It doesn't have to be at the top of the list. I mean, it can be, but what is something that remains on your bucket list that you still want to check off and you want to do that next?
Yeah, we wanna learn how to surf. I remember when I went to like first years in school, we got the same type of questions, like what do you dream of or something, and I always said learn how to surf. Still haven't, so I guess that's one thing on my bucket list still.
Okay, well, the good news is it's never too late. It's never too
Right?
late. Yeah,
Right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, what is something that people may not know about Anna Kjellbin?
I don't think a lot of people knows, but people who knows me won't be surprised when I tell them that I actually, when I was young, did compete in chess.
Oh my goodness, I wasn't expecting that answer. Do you
All
still
right.
okay, sorry, I know I shouldn't ask any follow-up questions, but do you still play?
No, I don't. I don't.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't even think I'm as smart as I was when I was young. But yeah, people who knows me knows that I'm a bit, geeky. So they would maybe not be as surprised. But yeah, that's not that many that knows about my chess career.
All right. Yeah, the illustrious career, the chess career. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that. Well, now we all know. So that's great. Yeah. Lastly, I want to ask, what is something, and we're going to end with a profound question, and I'm certain it will be a equally profound answer. What is something that motivates you and inspires you? And you can either do this personally, professionally, maybe a bit of both, however you want to take this. What is something that motivates and inspires you?
I think to develop, like I like to develop when it comes to hockey, being a better hockey player, but when it comes to me as a human, be a better human. So I think um, that's one of the things. But then also to, we should not talk more about leadership, but like achieve goals together with a team and to build a team, and to drive against, winning the championship. If it's in SDHL, PWHL, or if it's a championship, whatever it can be. So, yeah, that's something that really motivates and inspires me for sure.
Knew it was going to be a profound answer, and you nailed it. So, with that, I want to say, Anna, thank you so much for joining the show today. This has been a long time coming, and I've really, really enjoyed it. It's been a fantastic conversation. I love hearing your story. I feel so inspired after that, after hearing your story. And I also want to say good luck as you look to embark on the next phase of your incredible, bold, underline hockey career. But thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And for Anna Kjellbin, I'm Chris Sinclair, and this has been Rinkside Rundown. Cheers.